And we're live. What's going on, everybody? And welcome to a FTN NFBC Online Championship draft. It is to beat me. There are 11 other teams in this league in this draft. It's the 6 p.m. OC $150,000 grand prize at the top. And I've got with me my podcast co-host, Jason Anthony, and making his FTN debut on the visuals, the Red Fox himself at Red Fox Roto. Newest member of the FTN baseball team, Dan Thompson. What's going on, Dan? How are you?
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be doing this. My first live stream, my first commentary. So we'll see how it goes.
All right.
And Jason, what up, Vlad? You ready, man? Game face?
I got to the computer not too long ago. I know that I have the 11 pick. I have not mapped anything out. I'm just rolling with it. You kind of do enough of this. You draft so much that it sort of becomes second nature at a certain point. Of course, the 12-team OC is a completely different animal than these 15-team draft champions that we're drafting. The main events that will be coming up, obviously different from home leagues and points leagues. But yeah, I'm ready to go. We'll see what kind of deals fall to me at 11.
Hey, just a little friendly advice: do not take Garrett Cole at 11.
I wasn't even taking him at 65 before a few days ago, so I think we're good. All right, so we got this is by the way, for those that are tuning in, we've done two other of these streams. One was the Beat Jason League from Friday night. You can find that on YouTube. Same thing with the Beat Lucas Beery League, and Nelson Souza and Mike Mager were guests on those. We have another special guest, two actually, coming up today that will join us. But we got about a minute and a half here before this draft kicks off. Hey guys, what's been going on in the news lately? I've been sort of missing out on things. I know Francisco Alvarez is once again hurt. Yet another Met, unfortunately. What else is happening?
Well, Alvarez was the big news today, as far as I know. I've been a little out of the loop since this morning too. But yeah, broken hamate bone in his wrist. It sounds like he'll be out the normal 6 to 8 weeks for a bone. And he's probably missing the first month and a half of the season at least. I don't think he'd be a viable draft target. You don't want to hold a catcher that long. So we'll see if he ends up being drafted here. Maybe someone didn't get the news today.
Somebody will stash him in this. Carry three catchers. It's makes a challenge to the bishop. Yeah, it's tough. That payoff when he gets back healthy. He's right on that borderline to stash. What do you think, Vlad?
So as soon as I saw that news and before this, I did update him in the VDP rankings. I put him a little like around Danny Jansen, a little below Alejandro Kirk, like somewhere like right around 300. And that's just kind of a starting off point, and is a little bit ahead of Sean Murphy, although Sean Murphy is going to be back sooner. So I should probably have Sean Murphy ahead of him. But either way, yeah, those are two catchers done, and it's tough.
Only other news I saw was Luis Rengifo hamstring issues. Not sure on opening at this point. They're being careful with him. And then Profar dodged a bullet with his wrist yesterday.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I am very heavily.
I guess we're going.
Yeah, we're going. We're rocking.
Yep, draft is live.
All right, this is a 5x5 standard roto. It is a 12-teamer, as you can see. It pays the top two. $350 is the entry, and there is an overall component. I think about 50 or so teams in of a few thousand will place for overall prize money, and the prize money up top is $150,000. We're often running pretty standard start. We see Witt and Ohtani kind of flip back and forth. Dan, do you have a clear number one?
Not a clear number one, but if I ever get a number one pick, I think I would take Witt. I would feel better about him.
Dan, does that change for you in a 12-team versus a 15-team?
No, it doesn't. Obviously, Ohtani can be the number one player overall again. But there's a little extra concern this time. He's a year older. He's coming off 2 major surgeries. And it's got to take a big toll on his body, getting ready to prep to be coming back as a pitcher again and hitting every day. So I don't think he's a big injury risk, but it's certainly greater now that he's going to be back pitching than it was before. So I think Witt's equally as good a number one pick, and to me, it feels safer.
Yeah, and there might be some extra days off mixed in too that people are not thinking about. He played almost every game last season, with day off, maybe out of a start from hitting or day after to recover. If he only plays 140 games, that changes things, 145 games.
Yeah. The plan I heard this year, and Vlad, you would know this, was that he would still DH on the days he was pitching, but maybe if, the arm isn't bouncing back the same, maybe if the rehab is taking a little longer, maybe he ends up not doing that. So it could cost him, some games during the season.
All right, Vlad, on the clock, baby.
Okay. So they're kind of painting me into the take a pitcher corner, and obviously Skubal and Skeens. I usually do not start with a pitcher. The one of my 5 OCs last year that did not do well and did not either win or place was a team where I took Strider in the first round, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So that should have no effect for me this year. It's just a matter of how I want to build. Maybe one of those guys will be back on the turn. So I'm going to make a tough decision here. And so I'm going to go between two hitters. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's go with my namesake.
I mean, hard not to. You got to stay on brand with the Vladimirs.
That's right. Yeah, just consistency in playing time, a little bit better. If you get a full season of Bichette, you've got some protection from Anthony Santander. It's I think a little bit of a better situation. I like the staff this year too. I just feel like that team is going to be in a better spot than last year's disappointing season. So it's a tough pick against some other guys, but feels like a good, stable, 35, 295, 105 kind of guy.
Feels like a discounted Juan Soto. I mean, what's the main difference between the two, other than outfield versus first base?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mookie Betts here at the turn. We'll see if
you should get a pitcher coming back if you want it, Vlad, in 2.
Yeah,
pretty good consolation prize.
Yeah, we're looking at NFBC ADP for the OC specifically from just the month of March. It's about 7 drafts, and a few of those obviously with the Kirby and Cole news and whatnot. But Skubal's ADP is 12.5. Skeens is 13. And then the other guy I'm thinking about right here, honestly, I'm thinking of man, would it be crazy just to skip the pitcher and start off with 2 banging hitters with Julio.
Hard to go wrong with anybody here. A lot of good players.
Yeah. So I'm going to take my clock here because what I want to do is try to map this out and see when I come back around 36, 37, what I'm more likely to get. And that's how I want to consider building. There will be pitchers, probably not the second tier guys. Passing on Skeens might end up really biting me. Might be really dumb, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
All right.
J-Rob,
I don't mind it. Not in a 12-teamer. You can get your pitching down.
No, Vladdy and a homer speed combo guy is a great start. Nothing wrong with that at all.
So, Dan, I need to hear the story behind your handle, Red Fox.
It's not much of a story. I like foxes.
Well, that's a story.
That's a story.
A 3-word story. Yeah. No, I've been asked, did you go to Marist? I'm like, no, just like foxes.
By the way, this is not quite related, but it is NFBC. The first main event took place yesterday, and draft board's out there. People want to see it, or I think parts of it. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff. Of course, me and all the rankings that we've been doing here and all the work since November, since I think late October, November, since the rankings first came out, having to constantly move guys up in our rankings and ADP keep catching up. But man, I saw a lot of crazy minimum picks, and man, it was a pretty wild world, that main event.
Get your guys season has begun.
Yes, sir. I think the second one was already finished today as well. So one more and we'll actually have ADP from the mains.
Very nice. We are, by the way, all from FTN Fantasy. We are a premier destination for all of your fantasy baseball needs, season-long projections, rankings, tools, anything you need. If you are not yet subscribed, we'll take great care of you. We will increase your likelihood of winning your league. I don't know what that rate is yet, percentage rate, but it's I'll calculate and let you know. But to get in, it's spring 15. You get 15% off the season, the regular package, or the high stakes package. If you get the high stakes package, you get a 30-minute conference call with me, if you want it or not, and access to our high stakes Discord and a lot of other good stuff. We'll take great care of you at ftnfantasy.com.
So you're calling either way, whether they want it or not. Do you expect a call from Vlad?
I don't get your phone numbers, but. Yeah.
Vlad, were you any other hitters you were looking at other than Julio right there on the wrap?
No, not particularly. I feel like we're getting a slight discount on Julio Rodriguez just because he did have so many struggles last season. The fact that his home park is not ideal for hitters, but I mean, a full season of Julio, if he does not go on the IL, I feel like he's a good bet to return first-round value and probably have a better season than last year.
Only we could bottle those second halves every year, right? Then he'd be a number one pick.
And by the way, I keep my own basically like Google sheet. I put in our Dan Thompson's NFBC percentile category targets, which kind of a blend between mine and Dan's work. And so these are category targets I'm looking to hit at like, the 80th, 90th percentile in order to, have good balance in the draft and be able to, kind of make sure I'm drafting in the right way with not having too many extremes as I go. And so part of that, of course, that formulation, Dan, is it's not just like what happened last year, right? We want to be like Gretzky where the puck or the ball is going. And part of that is, you can't just use like, last year's runs or RBIs. And we don't know what that is, but there's certain things we've done in the back end modeling to sort of project that. We obviously don't expect like a massive stolen base bump like we saw a couple of years ago. But anything that stands out to you, Dan, like from your research, from the article, like where you might see the league environment shifting?
Pitchers have just been getting so much better and better, velo increasing almost across the board. Guys just learning so much about the science of pitching. And with hitters, the whole launch angle revolution, trying to drive fly balls as much as they can, decrease contact rates, strikeouts have gone up. The result is that the league batting average has dropped from 271 around the year 2000 to 243 last year. And the trend line has been pretty steady, just moving down, down, down. So one thing that I have done when setting the percentile targets for myself is to take last year's batting average, whether it's the 80th, 90th percent, and drop it another point or two. Mm-hmm. And then in my research through stolen bases, in the articles I've been writing about stolen bases, what we saw between 2021 and 2022 was an increase league-wide in steals. And then between 22 and 23, we had the new rules put into place, limiting pickoff attempts. The bases are closer together. And the pitch clock has also made it easier for runners to time up when the pitcher is going to start his delivery. So base stealing became much easier. Success rates have gone up to, I think, around 80% league-wide. Is a fantastic number. So there was a huge increase in stolen bases. Everyone's aware of that now between 2023 and between 22 and 23. But then between 23 and 24, we saw another increase. So in the two non-rule change years, stolen bases have still been going up. So I'm projecting to add even a few more, maybe another couple hundred, 200-300 league wide. So I'm just setting my stolen base target that little bit higher.
That makes a lot of sense, man. I'm sitting there listening to you and just, I think, giving myself a pat on the back that are, long-time subscriber, and obviously, you're a former writer, you're written for Pitcher List, you're a veteran NFBC player. I'm just patting myself on the back for, the idea to have you join the team, man, because that's phenomenal analysis, man. We need more of that, so appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and you're welcome. This is fun.
I have nothing to add.
I don't know why I can't help a backpack. I somehow turned in how awesome you are into, good job, Vlad. So I'll chill on that. All right.
Hey, the boss gets all the credit, Vlad. You're good.
All right, turn in the corner. We've got another big announcement coming up this week. You'll be pretty excited about it. So we'll let you know on Tuesday or Wednesday. Be very, very stoked about this one. All right. What are you guys seeing for me coming up here?
Not many pitchers have. I mean, you have the 5 pitchers in the second round, the big 5, and then Corbin Burns is in his normal spot. So you should get a pitcher of your liking in that second tier if you want to go that route. You can kind of go wherever you want because you got the power, speed, good batting average to start, which is really nice to do. They're just keep hammering hitters right now. So you're in a good spot, as most teams are in a 12, no matter where you're picking.
Yeah, that actually sometimes hamstrings the brain, right? Because in a 15-teamer, I feel like sometimes your options you have less to choose from. Like we have less targets within each round. We have always a few guys we're avoiding. In a 12-teamer, sometimes it's a lot more wide open, and it sends you down, different butterfly effects, if you will, how you're building. And sometimes in the moment, these are things we're not capturing, but it's interesting. I do know that I'm probably not going to be hitting a closers hard. I do like, Jason, what you did in your draft on Friday night, where you double tap like 2 big closers and then didn't have to worry about it. I think I might consider one. There's some other like really solid good hitters on the board here.
Yeah, it's a strange closer year. You got a big group that's really safe, and then you got some guys with some good skills, and then just really a lot of question marks. So it's interesting strategy how to put that together.
One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look see what Gilbert has. I'm sorry, I said his name. So sorry that you've now been outed. We only know your last name, but Team 12 has Betts and Skubal. And so, listen, could go pitching. So what I'm going to do here, just playing it live on air, I'm going to, I want a pitcher, but I'm going to, play a game of draft chicken. So I'm not going to take the pitcher. He may or may not know who I'm taking. I think I will take a hitter here. Guerrero, Julio. I only got 15 seconds left. I got 2 guys I'm looking at. Let's go with Cattell.
I like it.
Do you expect it?
He probably should be going a little in front of that with the skills in that offense. He was so good last year. Guy's probably top 10 hitter in the league as far as the underline. But can he stay healthy? Is he going to run? I think it's great value for you there. And then now you got your choice of the pitcher because Team 12 went hitter pretty quick on you.
So now the question is, because I don't do this rarely, I never really like punt. And I do like to balance draft. I usually don't do extreme drafts, but there are hitters that I'm very intrigued by. And I do feel like I kind of have like a stable team and that I might want to like go for it a little bit. So there is a hitter that is popping off on my board, but there's also a top closer and there's a really good starter. Okay.
Only 20 seconds. You're fine.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's go hitter heavy, and then we'll figure it out. I want to do something different. I usually draft 5 of these per year. I've got good balance. So let me just take a guy that I get very little of, take a little shot on upside.
Oh, that's a pick that I like.
Yep. I'm a fan, Vlad. It's fun to watch the master work in his element right now, just processing.
I don't remember the last time I've done a draft where I've taken 4 hitters to start. Usually something in the back of my head that's a little scared that like maybe my pitching will not, be up to snuff in like the overall competition if I wait too long. But we'll see. Let's see if I can piece something together.
Well, it is something that's easier to do in a 12 than a 15. But you're off to a really good start on the hitting side. So you've definitely put yourself in front there.
All right. as I draft, I'm inputting into a just part of, on my back end, just like a very easy, by the way. If you're not using draft software, it's something that can easily be done. In fact, we can help you. Just pop in the Discord over in FTN, really just like making a Google sheet or an Excel, and you're able to pull, set it up to pull our rankings, or I'm sorry, projections from the custom tool. And you can add in the percentile targets, and then you're just entering your picks as you go. And you don't have to enter everyone's picks. I mean, of course you could do that, but you can essentially just, add in your picks and really see where you're at, right? I mean, some of us are doing this with paper and pen or eyeballing it. Everyone has sort of a different method. But what I like to do is just enter the players in the into my spreadsheet and just see like where I'm at in the categories on an overall total, and then also on the average per category. What do you do, Dan?
For live drafts, the fast drafts, I've always been just a pen and paper guy. I just basically track home runs and stolen bases by hand, in my groups of 5, 10, 15, 20 to keep the addition nice and easy. And, I feel like I just have a pretty good idea then eyeballing my team if I'm okay on batting average, or if I have too many leadoff type hitters and need some more RBIs, I can make that adjustment. But mostly I just want to stay on pace with the homers and steals and just let the draft kind of flow that way.
What about you, Jay? You're a high stakes savant. You've been doing the big boy, big girl leagues for a long time now, live in Vegas and online. What's your preferred method of tracking?
I kind of go back and forth. I've used some draft software to try to input every team. I think I've settled on just tracking my team to kind of see what my goals are, where I'm short on. You can eyeball a team and have a pretty good idea, but I might be a little short in batting average, or I might be a little short on speed without really noticing it. And then you're panic picking in round 15 or around 18 or wherever you are. So kind of like what Dan said, I try to track it. I'm a little more just using the projections and kind of inputting them in a spreadsheet, and then I'll be a little more exact, but projections are not exact. So I think the way Dan does it with the 5s and 10s are pretty easy as well too, because the projections are just kind of a wag anyways.
Well, a live fantasy baseball event, message board celebrity Uncle Ted is pouring souring my draft. He says Langford can't hit righties. And if you can't hit righties, you can't hit. Am I screwed? And will he hit them this year?
Yeah,
Uncle Ted, draft celebrity.
He's an absolute celeb. We love you, Uncle Ted. My uncle, your uncle, everyone's uncle. All right.
All right. So, Vlad, in a draft like this where you're on the end near the turn, do you spend most of the time watching the rest of the draft unfold, watching who people are picking and trying to notice any trends and kind of let that guide where you're going next? Or are you just going through ADP, queuing up players that you want to draft and just kind of hoping that they're available when you pick next?
So I think that pre-draft prep is very important, and there's a really easy way to do that with NFBC, just so that you're not so you're on top of everything. So I remember many years ago playing, before I would set my pre-draft rankings into the NFBC software, you're just sometimes scrambling and you're missing out on targets and guys. So if you're really well organized beforehand, like what I do is I recently, a couple hours before this draft, I updated VDP rankings, the top 500, and I re-imported it into NFBC. So then when I go to my thing, it's my list, right? So I kind of know exactly, just so I don't miss things. Plus, we're doing the stream here, trying to manage it all. So I think that's important. I am, not relying too much on obviously ADP, not an ADP drafter, but I'd like to know where I can get away with waiting and on discounts. And being at the end, you sometimes are forced to make, stronger decisions. So it's tough. As far as the draft, trends and things like that, I mean, yeah, I can feel out a room beforehand. A lot of people in the NFBC, when you recognize names, when you don't, who else is drafting off of our rankings and who isn't. That obviously sometimes makes it harder to get your own targets. And then I'm looking for trends like, when are the closers going? What's the I guess the frequency of like the starting pitchers? Are there big runs on it? Are people panicking? So things like that. But I don't know. Is there anything looking at this draft and comparing it to other 12 teamers that seems unique to you or different?
No, nothing looks particularly unique so far. I don't think anyone has been pushed up a lot higher than they might typically go. It doesn't seem like anyone obvious is just falling. So things are, kind of going as expected right now.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, by the way, we could tell you this now. There is a guy that is on the clock right now at pick 3. He is the one that's going to be joining us here in about 10 minutes or so. He's going to join us. Well, hopefully all 4 of us can fit on the screen, but he is has one of the highest win rates in the NFBC Online Championship. He's a 12-team beast. I think it was 2 years ago. He entered 13 OCs, won something like 8 or 9 of them, and then basically cashed in all except for one. It was pretty amazing.
That is tough to do.
Yeah. So we'll introduce him when he pops into the waiting room here in a bit. And he is going with a similar strategy as me, 5 straight hitters. So it looks like we might be fighting for pitchers later, right when we're on air together.
Yeah, starting with 5 straight hitters, it's a bold move, but again, it goes back to preparation. If you have a really good feel on how you want to build out your pitching staff from here, you can certainly create a nice advantage in the hitting categories by doing something like this. But it's not something that should be done without being well prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I wonder how much, I think most people are, they're worrying about their own teams they're managing, but it's always curious, if there's anyone here, because it's it's a league is being streamed. It's a beat league, people knowing that I don't have pitching. Are they going to push pitching up for, further just to, trying to put me off balance? You never know. But at the end of the day, it's $350. You don't want to waste it. We want to win our league. So usually people do what they need to do best.
Yeah. You wouldn't expect to see too many picks just to spite Vlad. People do want to beat Vlad. So you'd assume they're trying to put together the best possible team they can and not deviating from a plan just to get back at you for something.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. I'm about to be coming up. Got some options. Best, most thing is I should never panic, right? If you got to always, you got to stay loose, stay nimble, and not worry of getting that laser focus. I must get this player, and if I don't get him, what am I going to do? You have to, kind of put yourself to never be in that position. Throw a few guys in the queue. Be ready to kind of move in any direction that you need to. Because I've done that before where I'm 3 picks away and I really need, this guy to make my build happen. And I don't get him. It throws you off mentally. And so, Yeah,
it's tough to be sniped on a player you think is going to be very important to the team you want to put together. Mm-hmm. But that's where it does help to have a queue, have a lot of options, and kind of always be thinking 2 to 3 picks ahead. How do I want to build? What positions do I want to draft from that look like they have options available that I like? All right, so you are coming up here on deck.
Yep. So yeah, we got a F10 subscriber, Randy Leeson. He's drafting right in front of me at the 10. We popped in his commentary earlier, so he's a good player. Let's see what he does. I'm gonna guess he goes with a hitter, but I don't know. Or maybe I'm subtly mentioning that so he does and leaves me a pitcher. I just realized I caught myself doing subliminal stuff. Oh, the Schwelle. All right, I'm going to make my pick, and then we'll see if that's a min on him. We know he's a helium guy.
Ooh, setting mins.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, his min before this was 66, at least in March, and he's got an ADP around 82 Schwellenbach. So let's see. It's funny how the. Mhm.
It's always a little uncomfortable when you're setting a min on a player because it gnaws in the back of your mind. Maybe I could have waited another round. But again, this is the opportunity to take the players that you believe in, that you want to have on your team. At the end of the year, if you hit on enough of them, it won't matter what round you took them in, just that you took them and had them on your team and they contributed to, hopefully a league title, maybe an overall contender.
Indeed. All right. We got apologies from Jason. He's having some internet connection issues up there in the Bay Area. But it'll be Dan and I. We're going to have our guest on. He's picking third, and I'll introduce him in a minute when we see him pop in the room. And then we've got another special guest around 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern. A very fun dude. So maybe that gives you a little clue on who it is, but he'll be popping in. All right, so here we go, man. There's a lot of. This is a very OC-ish draft, and what I mean by that is a lot of these, the Michael Kings, the Iglesiases, not Iglesias, Michael King, Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, these guys are going here in this part of the draft. I mean, those are sort of the sexy, high upside helium type of guys. So not surprised to see him going here. And then I did get a little sniped because I was between Yamamoto and Iglesias the first time around. And Iglesias probably should have been my pick. But so now I'm going to pivot.
Well, and this is where, having that queue set, having multiple pathways you can take ahead of your picks coming up is the right way to go about it so that you're not scrambling, wondering, okay, what am I going to do now? And then making a pick you're not happy with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see what you do here.
All right, let's go with John Duran, who today, is that surprising to you with the velo down today?
Well, I see James Wood.
Oh, I clicked on James Wood. Okay, well, now I got James Wood. That's fine. That is just fine. All right, yeah, hey, that's fine. I really thought I was clicking on Duran. Interesting. Okay, there. All right. And yeah, so there was a little note about John Duran, a quote from him because his velo was a little down, even though he was actually hitting 100 miles per hour on some of his pitches. But it was that he doesn't need to be throwing full speed here in spring. So he's not too concerned. What I'm mostly concerned about, it's not as much Griffin Jacks with John Duran. It's more Rocco Baldelli, who to me just kind of feels all over the place sometimes, doesn't let his guys run, steal bases, all these speedsters, other than Willie Castro, he lets run.
1 year. 1 year.
That 1 year. Yeah. Must have lost a bet or something.
Well, we have seen Byron Buxton steal a few bases this spring. I haven't looked at the Twins as a team yet to see where they stand on stolen base attempts. But maybe Baldelli will let him run a little more. Maybe he's realized the rules make it a little bit easier.
All right. Let's see. Christian says, Team 6 looks good. What do you think, Dan?
If
you like
Gunnar Henderson,
other than the Gunner,
if he's healthy and starts the season on time, definitely this is a nice start. You got a big power bat, hopefully a lot of RBIs out of Alonso, hitting behind Lindor and Soto. Lawrence Butler, he's started off very well this spring after finishing last season tremendously well. So yeah, if he can be a 25 homer, 20, 25 steal guy, give you some solid production. It's a good foundation. Crochet and Burns, that's two very good starting pitchers. Going to have to address a closer at some point here to get that foundation truly laid out. But yeah, it's a very good start.
All right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, man, it's weird. I guess I'll survive. I like so many outfielders throughout the draft. You get to see me scramble in live mode, but for my build, I really should have taken a pitcher there. So now this will be fun. This will be kind of crawling out of a corner. I don't even know if I'll go like full extreme, but like now I didn't get the closer I was looking at. And then on top of that, I got another outfielder, a third outfielder when there are many guys I like later. So this will be fun. I did it on purpose, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it'll be a nice exercise in how to make adjustments on the fly, how to change your plan, and how to use roster construction to put together a team that at the end of the draft, I'm sure, is going to look just fine.
All right, we're getting this guy in. Our visitor is coming in.
Who is on the clock now.
All right, here we go. And then let's see. Dan, can you pop up the make the board a little bigger?
Sure.
If possible. All right. Thank you. Yes, that looks great.
Okay.
A lot of guys I like in that round. Matt McClain, Suzuki, Albies has really kind of slipped. Pretty good deal. So it's a good round. Yeah. Brenton Doyle, lots of upside.
I've definitely been in on Seiya Suzuki this draft season so far. We haven't seen that fully healthy season from him yet. Always a little oblique or something, keeping him on the IL for a little while. But even then, he started stealing bases last year, which he's very capable of doing. So you can see that upside for a 30 homer, 20 steal type season. Shouldn't be expecting that, but it's definitely a possibility.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there he is. And I took James Wood just for you because Brandon, what's up, man? Corked Wood is in the building. How are you?
Good, guys. How are we doing?
Just making mistakes live on air and talking about them.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a different one for me, going 6 straight hitters, but I've done a couple other drafts where I took pitching early and didn't love my hitting. So we're going to go reverse and see what happens.
Are you usually extreme build kind of guy? Do you balance it out? Like, first of all, tell us about that 2 years ago where you entered a whole bunch of OCs and won almost all of them. Was there anything in common with those teams?
I didn't do a lot of kind of back testing to see why I had so much success. I did drafts throughout pretty much the entire year that year of 23. I don't start that early, so I start somewhere around mid-January and then draft up until the start of the season. I was in a bunch of rooms. I remember doing a draft after the Super Bowl, and it was just a bunch of really well-known names in the room. And I was like, oh, God, get me out of here. And it was one of the best teams I had. I don't know. I just think I kind of hit on everything. Added Matt McClain to almost all my teams for less than $50, and he was just a superstar for me. I remember that being a big boost to a lot of my teams on offense. I don't know. It was an awesome year. Yeah, I won 9 of 13 that year, and third, 5th, and 8th in the other 4. So didn't catch the other 4, but no complaints about that win rate at all.
It's magic. That's a magical season. Dan, Brandon, you guys know each other? Or
no.
I've been reading your work on the website though. I'm an FTN subscriber. Pretty much the only website I use for all my information and data. Read Vlad's article as my gospel for all my fab work, and send him a special shout out. Thank you every year that I make money. And so far it's been every year I've been on the NFBC. I've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah. It was the weekly fab article that brought me over to FTN. I followed Vlad from, where were you before?
I've been many places, but let's not talk about the past.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, I've been at Baseball HQ, RotoWire, over a decade ago. Guru. So, but yeah, FTN is the happy home now.
Yeah, well, that Fab article is tremendous work, and it was definitely the reason why I became a subscriber when you did start with FDN.
All right, Brandon on the Corkwood on the clock. Team 3. There it is, the pitcher.
Yeah, I don't love it. I actually really wanted to take another hitter, but I think I get into pretty dangerous territory if I don't take something there. For as far as an SP1, especially since I don't have any closers either. So there's a bunch of pitching I like late, and I'm pretty happy to stream and do a bunch of 2-step weeks and stuff like that. I think volume is just a big beneficiary to the 12-team format. 15 teams, It's a lot harder. But I mean, I just stream and take 2 steps and just try and volume my way to getting stats, getting wins, getting Ks. Hopefully it doesn't hurt the ERA and whip too bad. And, I think Imanaga is a good foundation for doing that. Has a solid whip. Hopefully he gets good weather, not too many games where the wind's blowing out when he's pitching, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. What's funny is on Thursday night, we did the first of these series of beat leagues. Lucas Beery drafted a very similar build, and Imanaga was his first pitcher. Yeah, but at the end of the day, like his SB6 was also the guy that goes like 150 overall. So he built it out in a way that really worked. So that was very cool.
Yeah, that's the direction I was going to go with that one.
Yeah,
Lucas did start his staff.
Yeah.
What's that?
Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say Lucas did start his staff with Imanaga as well, and then he really did hammer pitching through sort of the middle rounds there, and turned out a real nice staff at the end.
Yeah, I was watching that stream, and I watched Jason's league also on Friday. So I mean, I'm pretty comfortable. I didn't have a plan per se. I didn't plan on starting 6 hitters, but a lot of the starting pitching I like kind of got pushed up. I usually go closer in round 5 to solidify that, like a Miller or a Devin Williams. I really like the high K RP1s. But Seager, I know Vlad has a soft spot for him. He's just so hard to pass up in round 5. I mean, if I can just get 500 at-bats, it's going to be a smash at that price. So,
yeah, I've taken him several times in the same position where I thought I need the closer or I want to start my pitching staff with an ace, but Seager, come on.
Yeah.
300 with 30 home runs. You could get that even without a full season of health.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's hilarious. I'm on the clock here, and our Randy, our subscriber, I almost had a good story to tell. That I meant to click Duran, and then almost got him a full 2 rounds later. So he kept that from happening. So for that reason, I'm going to make a Dodgers stack, pitching stack.
Oh, there you go. I like it.
All right.
Well,
What's the latest you've gotten him? I know his age. I know you took him in like 3rd rounds of Gladiators, but I saw him go at like 140 something in some OCs before he debuted in spring, and that seemed crazy to me.
Yeah, he started falling into like the 100, 110 range, and then of course when he came out there and had that first outing that's been much anticipated, we've seen his price jump up a little bit, and so yeah, I'm seeing him. It's a little bit of a vanity pick. I mean. There are a lot of really solid starting pitchers that we know should probably get 170 plus innings. And instead I took a guy, I'm being a homer here, 130-ish, 140, if everything's, healthy and intact, but probably some good ratios. And then next guy takes Glass now, just in case he thinks I'm on the full Dodgers stack there. And he kept me from doing that.
Well, the projections on Sasaki, very, very good ratios. So that's definitely a good way to start a staff. If you're not getting the volume, to have the elite ratios is a help.
By the way, this is my 3rd OC. I was just entering my info into a spreadsheet, and I noticed that I now am 3 for 3 on Yamamoto, and it's not intentional. So yeah, so go Yoshi. All right,
I did get him in the 6th round of my first OC. I did one of the slow drafts, which was a very different experience this year, doing a slow OC. But Yamamoto got to the point where I felt he was a very good value.
All right, I'm going to go. There are a lot of good pitchers here, I know, but I'm just going to grab a closer that I have a lot of faith and believe in Ryan Walker here.
And that's an excellent, I wouldn't even call it a consolation prize. That's a great start or closer to start with, after missing Duran in that 6th round there. Mm-hmm. To get Walker, in the 8th, he could have just as good a season or better.
Yeah, I like Walker more than Duran. I'm actually out on him. I'm doing a slow draft right now too, and he slipped to round 9, I think, and I just kept passing on him. And I mean, he was great value. I don't trust Baldelli. I don't think Duran gets more than 20, 25 saves, and you're paying for 30 plus of that draft price. I'm just out, period.
Yeah, I've kind of been leaning in that direction lately as well. Just thinking, if you're taking a closer that high, you want the 30 saves, not the 20 to 25.
Yeah, and I know we all know how he is, and we don't trust him. And when Duran went down last year, we all scooped up Griffin Jackson. I think he got like 2 saves in a month. He still didn't put him out there. He kept him in the 8th as his fireman. And the guy was electric too all year long. He just never – I think he got 10 saves, but most of those were while Duran was healthy. It was really strange.
Is there a manager that despises fantasy baseball probably more than Rocco Baldelli? There has to be someone out there if I really think about it. Dan, you're probably good at this off the top of your head. Other than
I'm actually not.
Kevin Cash? No.
Even
he's gone a little bit more, fantasy mainstream.
Yeah. The Rays haven't really platooned quite as much as that one year where that reputation was earned. And then the one manager that definitely hated fantasy players was Gabe Kapler. Yeah. But he's no longer managing a team, so we got a little reprieve from that.
By the way, I read something really cool. I try to find as much time as I can to actually read into things. And one thing that I saw was, obviously no more Scott Service, and him sort of tied up with Jerry DiPoto for all those years. And you've got another former player there who's now the manager, Dan Wilson, who took over and actually helped them to a positive record down the stretch last year. Reading some things about Wilson's philosophy and what his plans are. He's going to be a little bit, I think, more old school style, where he really wants to do, play a little small ball, do the hit and run, maybe a little bit less platoon. So I think that kind of context is important if you're, I don't know, maybe later in the draft looking at guys who might potentially platoon. Maybe you won't see as much of those platoons. And it's probably also good for a guy like Andres Munoz. Not that there's so much depth behind him. I think maybe the next guys in the pecking order, it's either Gregory Santos or Colin Snyder. But, I think Munoz, I might have a little bit of blinders on having Duran just one pick over Munoz. I think it's sort of a toss up. But maybe Munoz is the right pick between those two.
I think of the two, I have taken more Munoz and chosen him when both were available, because I do feel that this might be the year he gets 80% of the save opportunities rather than the 60 or 70 where he has been getting before.
Quick trivia, see if anybody, either you guys or anyone in the chat, from my Relief Pitcher Tiers article, who's the only pitcher last year to earn 95% of his team's saves in 2024? Dan?
It was Kyle Finnegan, wasn't it?
That's right. 38 of 40.
I had him on my main event team, so I know that one well.
Wait, was it 38?
Yeah, 38.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, I think it was 38 of 41. It was a really wild percentage. Yeah. It was incredible.
I kept waiting for him to lose the job. I thought if I get
waiting for 3 years.
Yeah. If I get 20 to 25 out of him, I'm happy. I just needed a closer at the time I drafted him. And he just kept going out there and getting the saves. They weren't always pretty, but he did it.
And I know Vlad's still waiting. I know you're not going to take him this year. I remember listening to you on the podcast. You're like, 38 saves be damned. I'm not touching that profile. So I know you're out again this year, but we'll see what happens.
Who is Carter? Carter needs to be on more live streams. They think your name's Carter? Corkwood or Dan? I don't know. Evan Carter?
Maybe it's Carter Gill. I know he's pretty infamous. I've never met the guy, but I know he's got a lot to say whenever he's on the mic.
That's probably what it means. Yes. Yeah. Me being a responsible a member of the fantasy community, despite me loving Carter Gill, I cannot take on that, what's it called, risk on a professional level, having him on one of these shows. I'll love to see him in Vegas and hang out. He's a fun guy. But Carter, sorry if you're watching, you cannot come on the show. Yep. All right. Somebody wants to know about, maybe we already did this one, but analysis on Team 6. Maybe, is that you, Christian? Are you Team 6? Is that why you want to know?
Well, we did talk about it through 5, and then I did mention they needed to add that closer to kind of build out the foundation, and Felix Bautista was the next pick. And I see they've added Bryce Miller to the rotation, building a very strong rotation. That's an excellent top 3. And then Luis Robert Jr. as the second outfielder, another high upside power speed combo. So still, it was a good start through 5. Still a good start here. Some risk there, but it's a good team.
Brandon, I want to ask you your person. I mean, this is a great time. This is the time to be getting into the head of some of our better players in NFBC. Where are you with the 3 top Twins starting pitchers? So, like, if Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober were on the board, would you take one of them over Joe Ryan? Like, what's your kind of quick take on the 3 of those guys?
Yeah, I was really big on Pablo last year. He was kind of my default round 3 pick. Him and Luis Castillo were kind of my number SP1s on a lot of my teams. Didn't do all that well, obviously, but I mean, I feel like Pablo got really unlucky last year. All his indicators, xERA, FIP, Sierra, all that stuff was like mid 3s, even low 3s at some points of the year, from what I remember. And so he'd be my number 1. Ober, I have a hard time getting behind. I don't really think I have any of him yet, and I've probably drafted 9 or 10 teams. I don't know. His fastball just gets hammered. So I know he's a good pitcher. He doesn't give up a lot of walks. He's got like 1.4 homers per 9. I was kind of going back and forth with Dr. Dave on Twitter a little bit about him. I know he loves his whip. I stopped arguing. I don't know. I like Joe Ryan. I had Joe Ryan on quite a few teams last year. I love his strikeout upside. His ability to just pound the zone and miss bats for me is awesome. I think he's great value. I hope the arm holds up. I mean, it's definitely a question mark having him be my SB2, but I'm willing to take the shot on upside there. I'll take him over Castillo and Webb all day long because I feel like if he pitches, he's just going to smash those guys.
All right, here we go on the clock. Dan, if you have any strong takes on the Twins starters or anything here,
feel free. Favorite of them is Joe Ryan, but I also feel like he's the least likely to throw the 170, 180 innings that you would want from a pitcher you're taking as one of your top 2 or 3. But the strikeout ability with the whip control is extremely valuable. So even if he doesn't last the whole season, we've still seen him mostly throwing between like 130 to 160, 170 innings. So I feel like you do get enough volume out of him where he's almost like a Tyler Glasnow, where he's still a very useful pitcher to have, even if you don't get 30 starts from him.
Very, very solid take there. All right, I got 30 seconds here on the clock. I'm going to try to walk you through it. I think Bregman would have been an interesting pick for me there, needing a third baseman and kind of not having a lot of middles or infielders, but I do probably would want some speed. I am looking pitcher here. There's a closer possibility. There are a couple starters. I'm going to take a starter here. You know what? No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take the closer first because I don't know what Gilbert's going to do. He's got 2 starting pitchers. I'm sorry, Gilbert. Sorry. Again, I had to hope, please don't sue me.
Team 12.
Team 12. He's got Skubal and Glasnow, and I don't know. I think maybe he would have gone with a second closer. And I know I'm kind of going with like the hype new guy closers here, but I feel like Ryan Walker and Jeff Hoffman are 2 really solid guys, low walk rates, great environments for their teams. I think like the type of teams that like when they win games, it's not going to be by all that many runs. And, I feel like Hoffman really only, the only concern with him was that he didn't get what is it? Or he didn't pass the Orioles physical was because it was probably because he was going to be a starter. I think as a reliever, he can hold up. He's got clauses in his contract for when he hits, 60, 70, 80 innings. He's amazing. So I grabbed that just in case he was going to go in that direction. And because there are two starting pitchers that I like here, and I figured I'd grab whichever one fell. And one of them I'm going to take here, who just, to me, feels like sort of the new, this is Tanner Bybee. I don't know if he's like the new Aaron Nola, but with better ratios, like more consistent, or maybe he's the more like the new Logan Webb. Who is Tanner Bybee? The new what? Like consistency wise. Could he be the next Wheeler?
I feel like he's kind of like a Pablo.
I was thinking about saying that, very much like a Pablo. That 3.5, 1.15 kind of ratios with the more strikeout. He'll spike a 234, like Lopez did a few years ago. But Bybee's a really solid pick. The skills are just solid across the board. Slightly above average almost everywhere. So that's a very good pick for your number 3 starter.
We got this comment here. Every 6 days, Yamamoto. That is in fact not true. If we're up on our news here, because first of all, Ohtani's they're not even thinking about. They pulled back on his pitching. I still think, kind of going with analysis from a month ago, that he's not going to be pitching until the summer. Sticking with that, it could be even later. I could even see them saying something like, "Oh, he's not pitching. We don't need him." As crazy as it sounds, that's something I feel could happen. Yes, Dave Roberts. Yes, Brandon Gomes, the GM, have talked about, they want to go 6-man when they can, but I don't know if they're going to do that off the start. It would mean that all their 4 big horses to start the year would have to be healthy: Glasnow, Sasaki, Yamamoto, and Snell. And then if like Bobby Miller's really popping, or Tony Gonsolin or Dustin May, and they can go 4 or 5 innings, then they can maybe go 6-man. But I don't think that's a thing right away. I don't think anyone's got Yamamoto for more than 160 innings anyways, but I think we all kind of know that.
Yeah, and we have heard that the Dodgers planned to use a 5-man rotation through the end of April anyway, just due to the schedule, and then Ohtani not being ready. But Yamamoto will get one of those 2 starts against the Cubs in Japan. And then if he comes back and starts one of the first few games of the regular season, instead of 27 starts in a full 6-man rotation, he might actually get to 29, 30 starts by the end of the year. So I could see a scenario where Yamamoto gets closer to 170 innings, just because he might be the guy that picks up a couple extra starts.
So Yamamoto and Sasaki are starting those 2 games, right?
I believe so, yeah.
So, and I didn't do that intentionally as I'm drafting, got, many things going on, but that's interesting. And especially since that those 2 games are going to be free looks in NFBC. So we do not have to set our lineups until after those games, even a week after. And so I will know whether I'm going to start both these guys. I mean, hopefully, they just shut out the Cubs both games. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll know. What kind of start, by the way, would it take for you to not start them? Like how many earned runs, how a few strikeouts, guys?
Probably the Bailey Ober, 1 inning, 9 runs in his first start of the year last year. As long as you get maybe 5, 6 strikeouts, and no more than an earned run per inning, I think it's fine to start him, because those 2 games are going to be included in the first scoring period, that March 27th to the 31st. So it's very likely Yamamoto gets a second start within that scoring period, and you might want to be using him anyway.
Yeah, we saw it last year. Actually, Yamamoto got ripped in that Japan game. Yep. He pitched 1 inning, gave up 5 earned. So he not only lost that start because you weren't playing him, then you lost the next start. And I think it was decent. But you just can't play that for that free look during the first week, because you don't want to eat 5 earned and one inning pitched. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because if they have bad outings, then you miss them for 2 starts, because you have to bench them that first go-round. So, yeah, it's an interesting – it's always nice to have the free look, because you can make an educated hindsight decision. But sometimes you get handcuffed and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and there were a lot. I mean, there were big drafts still after that free look game last year. So Yamamoto's ADP dropped too, right?
Yep.
All right, we're getting ready here. We got a spicy one. This is one of the most fun. Before I do this, let me ask you this before we introduce our next guest. I feel like I heard you sigh a little bit. 2 picks before you took Hunter Brown. Do you like Justin Steele a lot more, or was that did I pick up on that correctly?
Yeah, you did. I was eyeing Steele. You've been kind of killing me, but you're so far away, I can't really get mad. I mean, Walker and Hoffman are 2 of my favorite late round. I'll call them late round closers. Before round 10, was eyeing Peralta and Bybee, hoping they might slip to me just for the K upside. I've seen Peralta go in round 10, round 11 quite often, so I was a little sad to see him go at the turn. And then you took Bybee. I was also hoping Scott got back to me. So kind of fighting an uphill battle with the build I started, but like I said, I'm comfortable with the player pool, and I don't really have any issues building how I'm building right now.
All right, Corkwood on the clock. FTN Fantasy Baseball podcast, NFBC live stream, 12-team OC here on a Sunday night, a couple weeks away from the start of the regular season. And got a lot of people in here, man. This is great. I'm seeing the numbers in the back. And only to enhance those numbers and to enhance your listening and viewing pleasure, I want to bring on one of my most favorite people in the world, California boy like myself. You know him as Sammy Reed. What's going on?
Konnichiwa, bitches.
What's up, Sammy?
That's an introduction.
Yeah.
You know each other. You and Brandon know each other from. Are you guys in Scarf together or no?
Yeah, we're in
Or the
Barf
other
together,
one?
but I couldn't make it this year because I was in Vegas the one weekend where everybody was able to live draft, so I missed out on all the fun, and I'm still bitter.
Yeah, I think I'm the only reason you're the only reason I got in it this year, to be honest. I think I might have taken your spot.
That's awesome. Well, you gotta uphold the brand then, man. You got to take this thing down. Show them what Kirkwood's all about.
Yeah, we'll see. 15 teamers are not my specialty, but I'm trying to get better at the expanded rosters. It's always a challenge when I have such a 12-team brain, and I'm used to the replacement cost that I have to start a guy in my 15-teamer who might get 3 or 4 games a week and be okay with it. It's a weird one.
It's nasty. Well, I mean, we're in a 12er now. You guys got to catch me up to speed. Like, who's who? What's going on?
Oh, so Brandon is Corkwood's team 3. I'm team 11. And the rest, I mean, we know that we have a subscriber, Randy Leeson, at team 10. The rest have not come forward as far as we know, or are just drafting. But that's where we're at. Brandon and I both walked into unintentional hitter heavy and then pitching to follow type builds. And yeah, that's where we're at. What do you think of the board?
Brandon, since Dan, I don't know a ton about your background, but I know both Vlad and Brandon, you guys are real 12-team maestros. Do you like kind of going hitter heavy in general in these types of leagues with the mindset that you can find more readily available pitching?
I do, for sure, and I talked about this on the first podcast I did with Waxman. Is I went and looked at the overall winner for 2023, and I think it was like the top 10, and it was 8 or 9 of those teams were predominantly hitter heavy, just really, really strong hitting foundations. And obviously they had good pitching too, but I think you can volume your way to better pitching numbers than you can via hitting in 12 teamers. There's always guys to stream. I can add 2-steppers every week, drop them the next week, add the next guy. There's some really terrible teams in MLB, the White Sox, the Marlins, the Rockies. Like, you can just stream against those guys all year long and show a profit. So this is a little extreme for me going 6 straight. But almost every draft, if I'm in the front, I'm taking 3 hitters. The only time I might consider taking a pitcher is if Crochet slipped. I have him ahead of Gilbert just for the K upside, but he's usually not there.
I'm on the clock. I'll make my pick here first, but So let's see. I know I need a shortstop. I think y'all know, don't care about them catchers, especially not around here. Middle infielder in general. Yeah, I could use some speed. Christian Walker late would be nice here, but I really don't need the corner early. Outfield, I don't need one of those either. Let me look at pitching here. Obviously not taking Garrett Cole. There are a couple of pitchers that are intriguing to me. Let me look at team 12 now. He's got 3 starters. He might go starter hitter here. So man, let me make a quick decision. I'm going to go with shortstop with speed.
Bang bang.
It might be early, but
would you have liked Bo Bichette right there? Like, give me a Bo take.
Yeah, I like Bo this year, and even recently moved him up in the rankings. So he's kind of closer to like 100, 110, and I think he pops even more in this type of format. I really could see him just being a leadoff guy this year, ahead of Vladdy G and Santander. I think it's a great spot to be in, and I think a little bit of bounce back. I'm feeling kind of good vibes in Toronto this year. The pitching staff, I mean, like, man, imagine if Scherzer and Gosman hold up. They got maybe Barrios and Bassett. Like, it's an interesting squad. It's a little top heavy if you're working with guys like Loper, Fido, Will Wagner. They're towards the bottom, but they got a kid named Alan Rodin who could crack the team on opening day. So there's a lot to like with them.
Dan, give me a take on how you approach closers in 12s, because obviously there's 3 fewer teams than in a 15 to kind of bang this out. Do you kind of think that leans you more toward like getting an anchor closer and then streaming the rest, or do you like to go value, or how do you like to approach it?
I think regardless of league size, I want to try to get an anchor closer. And this year, it's for me a pretty clear top 5. Actually, for me, it's more like top 4. I have my doubts on Edwin Diaz personally. But if I can I'm typically not taking the first closer, and it's usually been Class A off the board. So my teams have had more Hader and Mason Miller. And then I would like to get a Devin Williams at some point. I don't have a share yet, but he's in that group with them. Where I think if you can get a closer that's not just going to get you maybe 35, even 40 saves on team context, but they can get you 90 to 100 strikeouts, that gives you a nice advantage at a position where some guys are just going to be taking anybody who's going to save them games.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the William Contreras at catcher, where you're giving yourself a big advantage in all the counting stats, just because he plays so much. Getting the strikeouts and the saves together gives you a head start. And it allows you maybe later in the draft to take a lower strikeout pitcher that you might like more than some of the high K guys that are available who could damage your ratios.
It kind of gives me a little vibes. It's big in like fantasy football, where the smaller your league, the more you want to try to get elite players at the onesies, like tight end, because the opportunity cost at the other positions isn't as great. Like, you can make those up, but having just a motherfucker at one of those, sorry, I'm like, this is just coming on here cussing. Like,
that's okay. I expected, Sammy. I don't think anyone. Hopefully, no one's kids are watching the stream. But if so, their parents just took them off.
The 12-year-old learning fantasy baseball are like, what's this guy doing? But yeah, having like dudes who smash at those onesie positions is actually like more theoretically correct than it is in bigger leagues. So I think you're kind of following that theory here.
Yeah. I don't generally want to spend 2 really high picks on closers, but there's a lot of scenarios where I want to have my 2 closers by the 10th round. So it's something like Vlad did, getting Ryan Walker and Hoffman together. They could pair just as nicely as, if someone took Class A and then maybe waited to get like a David Bednar. You could end up with the same ratios, strikeouts, number of saves by doing it that way.
By the way, I did an interesting thing here. There are a lot of corner infielders that I like later in the draft, but I also really love Vinny Pasquantino, and he felt like a good fit for me there. But it also means all these sort of Mountcastles or Yandys or whoever I like later, I'm pretty much off of. And so I was between Vinny P and one of these pitchers, right? There's even a pitcher that hasn't been taken off the board that I was considering, but just wanted to get somebody there. Chris Sanchez, somebody. So I'm popping Chris here in the 12th, but that's something I've been battling because VDP rankings, or I guess me, like him and have liked him more than the market for quite some time. And then all of a sudden he's getting set mins like crazy over the last few weeks. And so I'm kind of in the mindset, by the time I go to Vegas, I'm not even gonna be able to afford him. He's going to go to a spot where even I'm not going to take him.
He's definitely going to be top 150 in Vegas mains, like maybe higher. Like
he's going like 100.
He went 112. He went 112 in the first main.
He's there already. He is already.
That's crazy.
It's like they see a guy throwing 97, and it's like, oh, he's up 2.5 miles an hour. Like you're getting bumped up.
Yeah, with a new cutter. Sanchez with strikeouts. I mean, that's what we've dreamed of from Framber Valdez for so many years.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I wasn't getting Sanchez since Randy says he was taking him if you didn't. And he's a guy I've been taking a ton. I've been trying to chase him up the board, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, we can all dream that his spring stats carry over, but it's inferior competition for the most part. And if he's throwing 97, 98, it's awesome, but I don't think he magically becomes a 9K per 9 guy.
No. But this is a great range of pitching. I think we don't know what's going to happen with any of them, right? Like pitching is just the great Wild West. A guy, something with his arm and he's out, it's a short IL stint turns into something longer. But in a perfect world, like this group of Jack Flaherty, a healthy Jack Flaherty last year was off the chain, one of the top, peripheral guys. Sierra X-Wave, everything was phenomenal. Strikeout rate was up. Sandy Alcantara, we know what he's been capable of, former Cy Young winner. We already talked about Brian. I mean, Brian Wu is crushing it. It's another guy you can kind of see going up. The only concern ever with him is like his injury. You just can't stay healthy. He's like, Kenny from South Park. But what do you guys like in this range? Is this just like a good pocket for pitching? Robbie Ray in there, Gosman, lots of guys. Jared Jones.
Yeah, this is a time where I do like a lot of the pitching that's available. So if I were to do, something like Corked Wood did at Team 3, going 6 straight hitters, I wouldn't mind in a 12 because you have a better chance of getting 3 or 4 of those pitchers when you start building out that staff.
Yeah, I think it's it's going to be a pretty popular strategy in auctions in Vegas, passing on the SP1 range, the quote unquote top 5, and just taking a bunch of 2s and 3s that you're going to get for really good values. That I've just never seen so many 200K upside strikeout guys go so late, like Freddie Peralta. Him going round 9, round 10 seems pretty crazy to me. I mean, Hunter Green, round 8, yeah, he's got his health issues, but I mean, Peralta's the one that's just been like a screaming guy to me all year. Even in 160, 170 innings, he can still strike out 200 every year.
I feel like if Peralta's whip last year had been 1.19 instead of 1.20,
I agree.
that he would be going higher.
Yeah, it's a funny mental thing with people, right? They're like, oh, 1.2, that just kills my ratios. You're like,
yeah. But 119 looks fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it could literally have been one base runner that made the difference.
Yeah, just like an error that got called a hit. You never know. There's just stupid stuff you can't control. But he's just
Uncle
consistent.
Ted has spoken.
So.
No top 5 starters ever.
Yeah, except for I guess Paul Skeens wasn't a top 5 starter, but
Zach Wheeler doesn't do it every year.
Yeah,
Corbin Burns is not a top 10 guy every year. Sorry.
But I think Skeens definitely. I guess he didn't count as top 5, but by the end of the year he was ranked in the top 5. I would assume he stays there. He's just stone unhittable, and we've started seeing him. I think he went ahead of Skubal in at least one of the early mains, and that was one of my predictions that he'd end up being a top 5 pick in the mains, first SP off the board.
Yeah, we're going to see more and more of that. The Skubal Skeens going in the top. Last year, Strider was a mid first rounder before all of a sudden he's going 2 overall. Then some
in 1 overall,
yeah.
I mean, and what exactly is the difference between Strider from last year and Skeens from this year? Besides Skeens might be better. Like what's the difference?
I don't know. Well, he's not. I don't know. Well, because there's not a clear drop off, like a massive drop off to the next tier, because Skubal is in that tier. That's really the only difference.
And maybe there is a little fear about what happened to Strider.
As well there should be.
Taking him so high, yeah.
As somebody who was so pumped, I did the opening day morning draft at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and it was so damn fun to wake up on opening day, get up early at like 5 o'clock, make coffee, like stretch it out and go. I had the second pick. I just snapped Spencer Strider, and I was feeling so good. It was just like, oh, it's lit. And spoiler, it did not end up getting lit at all. So I feel that.
Yeah. Last year I had my CLQ OC and another OC back-to-back nights. I ended up with the number 2 pick in both of them. And I thought, okay, in one of them, I'll take Bobby Witt, and the other, I'll take Strider. I just got to decide which one I'm going to do. Took Strider in the CLQ.
Yes, sir.
That's why I finished 97th.
Well, that's pretty good. That's
top half. It wasn't bad.
Oh yeah,
wasn't bad.
Right. So Brendan, you took Jared Jones. Very happy to see you do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on him this year. I had him last year added him and Louis Hill to a bunch of teams before the first week of the season, and definitely paid dividends. And I think his stuff is awesome if he stays healthy.
Yeah, I know this is like probably not the case, but he was so good at the beginning of the season, and then it seemed like once Skeens came up, everyone's just talking about Jared Jones, and then Skeens came up, and I think he like stole some of his mojo or something, and he kind of fizzled the second half of the year. But I mean, I think he's awesome. I really like him.
Yeah, he got hurt, and then he was never quite the same when he came back, but I think he got tired also.
Yeah, but if that 2-seamer he added this year, if that becomes even just an average pitch, he could go to the next level. Yeah, I like that pick.
Now, Brendan, I see you took Joe Ryan as your number 2 in a pretty nice spot. I think a lot of really sharp people are on Joe Ryan this year. Is he a guy you're specifically targeting in that range, or is it just whoever's there that you like?
I like him a lot. I liked him a lot last year. I feel like his price, we talked about this a little bit earlier, I feel like his price is just all upside at that pick. I mean, mid-90s for a guy that could have 200 Ks, a sub-1 whip, and like a 3.4 ERA for a good team in a crappy Central Division. I mean, I'm hitting that button every time at that price, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say there is something to it, like digging in. There's a guy on Twitter or on X, Ron Dwyer, I believe, and he's kind of new to NFBC, but he like just really kind of gets it already. And I saw some analysis from him. Maybe it turns out he's not a real person, he's a burner, and it's like some heavyweight player that we don't know. But no, it's a real person, and he's talking about like taking advantage of like within divisions. Like if you remember 3 years ago, whatever it was, when Casey Chaw dominated everything. We didn't see it coming, but he was picking off all the hitters in the NL Central, and that was the year. Like it was just something he saw. Casey being a professional, poker player, just a guy who lives off on the edges. And you can relate to this, Sam. You got your own poker pod. He just living on the edges, and he dominated. So there's something to that. Like looking at the mid, the AL Central and some of the teams there. If you are on the Twins, you're going to play a lot more of the White Sox and the Tigers crappy lineup. Like there's a lot to take advantage of. You're going to have those, Jack Flaherty, 10 strikeout, 1 earned run type games a lot. So I'll be on the clock, let you guys talk.
Yeah. If I can share a quick Casey Chaw story, my very first NFBC live main in Las Vegas, it was actually my first main event ever. So I just show up, Vlad and Matt Davis, they're like, dude, you got to come out. You got to be in Vegas. And I'm like, okay. So I finally come. I sit down at this table, and I think Lindy Hinkleman and Posma were at my table. It was nice to see Jeff Erickson was at my table, a guy I really like. And then I was sitting next to this, this dude who was just like wearing flip-flops and basketball shorts, and he looked like a little disheveled, and everybody had a computer except for him. All he had was his phone and a piece of paper. And I was like, oh, bro, this guy's like stone dead money. And we're talking, and it turns out he plays poker, and we're having fun, and, this and that. And it turns out it was KC Cha. He dominated that league. He dominated that season. I think that 2019 was his like coup de grace season. I could be wrong about that. I may be misremembering, but he just completely smashed. And I think the story from my takeaway from this, his big season, is that he didn't hedge. Like if you look at all his drafts, and we see the same with like Phil Dussault, right? With Phil's big season, he wasn't hedging. Like maybe with some of the top picks, but for the most part, his guys were his guys. And yeah, that adds some variance, but I think a lot of NFBC players just hedge to hedge, right? Oh, well, I'm not super sure, so I'll go in one direction here and one direction there. And it's like, if you have conviction, just go for it, because that's how you have monster seasons. Like, yeah, does it add more variance? Yes. But if your bankroll can sustain that, dude, just take the same guys all the time. And if you're right, you absolutely clean up. That's kind of my theory on it.
And I know Vlad's on the clock here, and he's thinking about who to pick, so I'll chime in. But he's doing the same thing this year. I have some buddies who are doing 400 DCs, and Cha's been in every single one of them, and he's taking the same guys every draft. My buddies are texting me, he's like, Cha's on this guy. He has him in every draft. It's like a list of like 6 dudes. He gives, he cares zero about what everyone else thinks. He's taking his guys, and he's ride or die with them.
Well, I just straight love that, and it comes from I think the last time I talked to Casey, which was not last year because he didn't play, but the year before. I was talking to him just about poker, and he's a cash game player, right? And so cash games in poker are just like, you're just trying to make plus EV decisions all the time. And it doesn't matter how much variance is in it or how thin the edges are. If you think it's good, you need to take the spot every single time. And I think KC kind of takes that mindset to fantasy baseball. And that's one of the reasons he's so successful.
Yeah. And like you said, it's all about your tolerance for risk. And obviously he has an extremely high tolerance for risk. If he's all in and he's wrong, he loses, and he's okay with it, but at least he's going down his way, and right. I think Phil's the same way. He's got his system, and it spits out the players that, he thinks are going to do the best. He doesn't second guess it. He goes straight off of that. And, he dominates. So obviously he's doing something right.
Yeah. I love that. Absolutely love that.
I find myself in a similar position a lot, where I just keep gravitating towards the same players. But in the areas where those guys are being drafted, they're the ones that stand out to me, that I like the most. I don't want to pass them up to take someone I think is a lesser player, just so I can diversify. So my teams do end up in like middle and late rounds looking very similar frequently. But I don't mind that, because, like you said earlier, when you get it right, you're going to have a big year. And then if you're playing a 12, replacement value's high, you can get rid of them anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
So Dan, let me ask you, kind of what's your theory in terms of like in 12-team leagues? What's your theory of like these mid-round picks? Like, are you going straight upside, or are you trying to like fill in with solid guys for the most part? I know every team is going to be a little bit different, but like how risky do you build in 12s in general because of the replacement value?
In the middle rounds, like I'll say 10 to 20, kind of divide the 30-round draft into thirds. Those first 10 rounds, I'm building the foundation. I can diversify there because there's plenty of options available. 10 to 20, I'll take more risks. I'll shoot for more high upside. I'll take a Jared Jones over someone that might feel a little bit safer because the upside is higher. But it's not really until the end of the draft where I'm just taking big swings, looking for that home run pick.
Okay.
So it kind of goes from safety to a little bit of a mix to just go wild, take whoever you want, because you'll be churning the bottom of the roster, the guys that turn out not to be the big home runs.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of home runs, we got a Brandon Lau min alert. We need like a woo Govier buzzer going on. Min alert. Brandon Lau, 227 ADP through 7 drafts in March in the OC, he goes 164. So I think now people are starting to get hot on those Tampa hitters, those A's hitters. They're starting to feel it. What do you guys think between that and also my boring Xander Bogaerts and Paul Goldschmidt picks? Is that something you expected out of me, or does it fit Tim well?
Yeah. I'm actually pretty optimistic about Goldschmidt. I love the park shift. I like the team shift, and I know things kind of dropped for him last year, but I'm just kind of a fan. Not as big on Xander, but it's probably my Padres bias. I'm kind of like, oh, he's the new Eric Hosmer. Like, we signed this idiot for $120-something million. He's going to hit 13 home runs a year. Like, shoot me now. But I do like Goldschmidt quite a bit.
I'm a big Goldschmidt fan. I was saying earlier, I think it was like before you hopped on, I was going to grab, or maybe you were here, Vinny P. But I feel like Goldie's a fine consolation prize. I don't think. I feel like I trust, obviously the age. It's kind of everything's right for the picking for Pasquantino with hitting right behind Bobby Witt, and the fact that he didn't even play a full season. I think he missed 30, 40 games and still almost drove in 100 runs. It's just something special about being the guy hitting in front or behind an elite guy like that. But I feel a lot of magic brewing with the Yankees hitters, at least. I mean, hopefully the pitching side mojo does not move over. That's crazy, man. What's going on every single year? New York pitchers, man. I feel so bad for the team. I'm supposed to hate New York as an LA guy, but I don't. I generally feel bad. Like all the Mets pitchers, all the Yankees pitchers, like it sucks to be a fan and get hit by that.
Well, I see you haven't backed up your words because you're taking Dodger pitching, and I don't see any Mets or Yankees pitching on your team, Vlad. So
they all got hurt. Otherwise, I would. I can only take and I might take Stroman. So
here's a question for you. So I see Sasaki went late in the 7th here, so a little bit before pick 100. I thought he would really jump up in the mains, but so far he hasn't. What are kind of your expectations as an LA guy for Sasaki?
I would like to keep some of it like not on the stream and like kind of give the whole kit and caboodle. But I think people pretty much know because I've literally been tweeting about it since November. And I think the market's absolutely crazy. I think like I will take my L's on certain things and even and I'll be wrong on a lot of stuff. And granted, sure, you could get hurt or whatever, but I feel like the market's just been way off on him. I think they're missing out. This is okay. Don't call me crazy. I'm not saying like he is Jordan or Kobe. It's obviously it's a different sport and all that, but like this is the caliber athlete that we're dealing with here. And I just feel people are going to be missing out later on. They'll be like, oh man, they just see these like insane dominant starts. It might take a little bit to get going. Like, listen, he might even the Japan start. Maybe it doesn't go all that well, but if he stays healthy, it's going to be like, DeGrom-ish numbers at, 130, 150 innings.
So I was going to ask, what do you think the odds are? Because he's going, this delta between him and Yoshi Yamamoto is like pretty standard through a lot of drafts, I think. What do you think the chances are that Roki actually outproduces Yoshi? Like if you were going to put a percentage on that.
Oh man, I think he's a better like skilled pitcher. He's less, like seasoned. I think those two are just going to those two being there together is really, really just going to help them one another. I think both can post under, this is crazy, but no, it's not under 3 ERAs. Like Yamamoto almost did it last year. And when he was healthy, under 1 whips, very possible. Lots of strikeouts. It's, it's not going to be over a full 30 plus starts, but I think it'll be good.
As a hot take, and I say this as somebody who likes Yoshi Yamamoto quite a bit, I think Sasaki's got more than a 50% chance of outproducing him. I think that Sasaki, I think he fucks, and yeah, he's just got it, and he's more electric than Yamamoto. And certainly there's some challenges with the volume and this and that. Both of them have had some arm issues, so there is a little bit of risk there. But I think Sasaki's stuff. I mean, after seeing it, and not to overreact, but we knew this from Pitching Ninja GIFs, over the last 2 years. His stuff is completely off the rails. And the fact that his splitter might already be the best pitch in baseball, that he's just sitting at 97, 98, man, I think he's to your point, a better skilled pitcher than Yamamoto right now. So I actually think I would take him above Yamamoto, even though you don't have to do that in drafts.
Wood, what's your take?
I've been struggling with it. I took Sasaki. I only have him on one team so far. This is my 6th OC. I got him, I think, at pick 85, 86. At the time, it was 10 or 12 picks past, so like a round past ADP. And then I saw it go on like a silly free fall. I should have just jumped in drafts just to draft him and, between pick 100 and 120 before he pitched and just shoved against the world. And they're like, oh, this guy throws 99 with nasty stuff and strikes out everybody. Oh, we thought he was having Tommy John. So, the world kind of woke up and saw how amazing he is. Like you said, he's just a superstar athlete. The range of outcomes is really wide because we don't know the health of the arm. And it seems like, the Japanese pitchers come over and inevitably get hurt. We saw it with Yoshi last year. Still really good in the 90 innings he threw, but you were hoping for 140, 150. So I think the jury will be out until the end of the year. But, has all the talent in the world, young, just stupid electric arm, throws hard, ball dances. Everything you could ask for. So we'll just see how it goes.
Hell yeah. I'm so excited.
This is how I know, by the way, he'll be fine.
Rookie. The oppo of an Uncle Ted take.
Yeah, Uncle Ted, he's the late round sleeper king for sure, but I got to fade on the early round.
Let's get Dr. Dave on the horn. Can somebody search his feed for Roki takes?
No, let's keep this positive. What do you guys think about Adolis there? Close to a max, which is 181. He should be okay for opening day. He's kind of my one stash here right now. I think it's a good price.
I like it quite a bit. I've been on him. I was taking him in a decent amount of drafts in the 140, 150 range. I feel like I won't say it's kind of a no-brainer, but even if you get the repeat of last year, that's got to be a top 150 player, and he's got room for upside. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, in these rounds, you're just looking to profit off of every pick you make. But even if that profit is only 2 or 3 rounds, preferably 4, 5, 6 rounds, you're just adding to your team. And Garcia, it's not upside. We know what he is. You're not going to get a great average, but your team is already pretty well anchored in batting average. It's the homers giving you some speed. He's going to drive in a lot of runs where he hits in that order. In Texas, it's a good park for home runs in general, so it kind of plays to his skills. It's a great pick.
One of the things I really enjoy about injured players, right? We have these guys like Adolis or George Kirby or Spencer Steer, is that the delta on where people are comfortable taking them, like we'll get their average ADP, but those deltas are going to be so wide, right? Because it really comes down to feel. And so a lot of what we do in drafts, we've got these tiers and all this. And I don't want to say that everyone's got the same tiers or anything, but like a lot of people are drafting off similar lists or lists that are generated from, similar sites or what have you. But I feel like the injured players are kind of the Wild West because they can go just anywhere in a draft. And I think if you hit on the right ones and you just have a good feel for when to take them, there's an immense source of profit there. Like, I don't think any of us go in saying, wow, I really want to draft injured players. Absolutely not at all. Like, you don't want to overdo it, but you want to have maybe 1 or 2 guys that you just think, wow, he's dropping so far now that I can take this kind of upside. To your point, Dan, it's like there's profit in this price. I'm in a DC right now, and Spencer Steer was rolling around, and it was pretty freaking late. I'm gonna look this up. In the beginning of the 16th round. So it's just like, I don't know, pick 210 or something like that. And I was just like, dude, I want to get this guy. And then he went a couple picks before me, and I was bummed. So.
By the way, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan. I got to take after you.
We just saw a very, very VDP pick, Jung-Hoo Lee, here in the 16th round, ahead of 200. He's typically had an ADP beyond 200. The dog has woken up. I will remove her just a minute.
That's okay. I was going to say, I don't know what you guys think of this, but I wasn't focused. I think I was like making a pick on another site, another draft I have, and I took my 4th and 5th outfielders there when I have other positions to fill. Like I needed a couple other starters, but then I just unfocused for a second. After I grabbed Adolis, I grabbed Tommy Edman there, just getting some speed. So I think that was a little unnecessary, but hey, now I got a full outfield.
It's not the worst thing. I mean, I think if you have a strong outfield, it really makes your team look good on paper. I don't know how well that threshes out over the season, but I mean, I'm going to be dumpster diving a little bit in outfield just because of the build I started with. But I mean, I have teams where I'm like, oh man, I took early outfield. I love it. And then I have teams where I waited till pick 200 to take 3 of them. And I don't love it nearly as much. I do like the Lee pick. He was definitely in my queue. I think he's being slept on a ton.
Well, Vlad, was it Lucas Beery who wrote the outfield is shallower than you think column?
He wrote it as part of something. Yeah. It was part of his thing. It is, because it's a real deal, especially in the 15 teamers.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at, you're at a certain point, you want to fill your 5th outfielder, and you're looking at guys like Willie Abreu, who's going on the IL, and Max Kepler. I love, that's a different story. But some other guys, like that mid 300s range gets a little nasty.
Yeah. So anyways, filling up your outfield, especially if you have a question mark like Adolis, I think at this point is just fine.
We are, this is the FTN Fantasy YouTube channel, and here we are streaming. I've got some very talented writers, drafters, high stakes players. They're all with me. Dan Thompson here, Red Fox Roto. He's part of the FTN team. We got Corked Wood. I think because you put your name there as Kirkwood, I don't know if I need to keep you incognito or not, but I think people know your name's Brandon. I don't want to.
Yeah, I no need to stay incognito. I just posted my team name on there just so people could have a reference. But yeah.
Brandon Waddell.
I like Sammy. So
Crusher, by the way, if you weren't here in the beginning of the show, in 2023, he won 9 of his 13 OCs. This is this format that we're playing here, and finished, I think, 3 in the top 10 or top 12 overall. So for 3,000 plus teams, that's pretty impressive. And then, of course, Sammy Reed.
Brandon, I wasn't familiar with your game, by the way. That is mega impressive, brother.
Yeah, it was a really fun year to have a high finish too, because I was actually vacationing in the Dominican Republic for my first vacation in forever. So I got to put my feet up on the beach, sip a beer, and just cash a nice check. So no complaints.
Too sick.
And then, of course, in case you don't know him, you must know him, but he's the last winner of the FSWA Humor Article of the Year, and he won it 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. You're kind of a little backseat in the fantasy writing game because you got a million other things going on, but you got a poker podcast named after you, right?
Yeah. Read 'em and weep. And now that football season's over, I'm committed to getting back to it. I stopped recording during football season because we're doing the Gilcast every week. We're smashing DFS all the time. It was just too much. And then I'm oh, well, now it's over. And now all of a sudden it's baseball drafting season. So I'm trying to jam in some new episodes here. And we'll see how that goes. But the time is coming near. As far as the FSWA, I think the way it worked is I won the humor article of the year, and that was the last one. And then I won a second one the year after that wasn't humor article. I have it in my office somewhere, but it was football series or something like that. Something more generic, but more professional. So let's see.
Listen, man, that's two more FSWA wins than I have. I'm always the bridesmaid, but
well, I figured it was a good time to have kids because then instead of just becoming a washed up has-been that won FSWAs back in the day, you could just mic drop and then be done with it. But I definitely do miss the content game, and for you guys that are in it that have kids, I mean, I don't know how you do it, but hats off to you, seriously.
Man, so it's unfortunate. We do have to head out here soon. We do not go through the whole draft. So here we'll get to our picks, but we are, I mean, awesome that you guys have stuck around for the whole thing. Brandon, first of all, awesome that you hopped on. We talked yesterday, with Jason to get you on, and Jason Anthony obviously had technical difficulties, but you've obviously stepped in. Maybe we'll be Wally pipping him. We'll see. But we're going to take you here through the 18th round, and then we will call it a show. But, thank you guys so much for sticking around. Is there anything else that you guys have on your mind or about this draft or have anything to plug?
I'll just say I'm mad. I got sniped on Bohm. That's my only complaint. I have nothing to plug, but I'm just mad I got sniped. Go ahead, Sammy.
I swear to God, I thought you had picked him, and I was going to say, dude, that's just a rock solid pick in the 17th, Brandon. And then it turns out that you got sniped for him.
I'm like the Toglia Bohm combo for, balance out my batting average. I'm like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then he goes. I was crying a little.
So sick. I mean, I'll just say this is fun for me because I don't have a ton of experience in 12-teamers. I mostly do 15s. And so, I think the thing about 12s is it's much more pliable, right? It comes down so much more to in-season management. Sometimes in a 15, obviously in-season management plays a role, but like the draft is so paramount because the replacement value on the wire is so much lower. And so 12s is something that if you're a tinkerer and you're somebody who spends a lot of time on your teams and you're just always making moves and you're always planning ahead and this sort of stuff, I feel like that rewards, if that's your strength, it really rewards that. And, clearly you guys that is a strength of all of you. So it's pretty fun to see kind of how you're approaching building your teams here.
Yeah, I personally love being able to work the wire, add guys. If you can get someone rest of season who can help your team the whole year, that's awesome. But you can just Frankenstein your way to an incredible hitter in your utility spot by spending $5 to $10 every week. Just looking ahead at matchups, being smart about who you add. But at the end of the year, you can have a really fantastic hitter just by streaming a couple of those spots. So that's something I like doing.
At what point any news come out on I don't want to even say his name because we got Randy here. I know he's listening to the stream and drafting. Actually, maybe I should set up a trap. Any news on Garrett Cole? Has anyone heard anything on Garrett Cole?
No, I think he's good. They said he's going to throw a bullpen tomorrow. You should draft him now.
Did they?
No.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think Cashman came out and said it's really bad.
Yeah,
I think it's worse than they expected.
When the player himself says he's concerned, players are usually the most optimistic. Second opinion, Cole is concerned. It does not sound good at all.
It's not. Last year he missed, a huge portion of the year with elbow inflammation, and it's just like, how many years do we have to play fantasy baseball before we just know that this is the eventual outcome, right?
He missed 3 months with an arm issue, with an elbow issue. I mean, he knows better than anybody. And like you said, Dan, if he's out there saying, to reporters, I think it's pretty bad. I don't know how it's not TJ. I mean, he's just a complete do not draft. Should be a do not draft for everybody, to be honest. I mean, why? There's so many other options out there.
Right. He's telling us himself.
Yeah.
Not to do it. He's concerned.
Don't draft me, guys.
Man, I don't know what's wrong with me drafting my first catcher so early in round 17. I don't know what's wrong.
I was going to say that's an early one for you.
I didn't think you were going to do a catcher within the first 18 rounds, Vlad, just so you could keep your stealthy late options off the stream for people to see.
Ooh, I didn't think about that. That is true. No.
Yeah.
But they know where they can find it. It's ftnfantasy.com. That is where we're at. The most amazing thing that we've done over the last couple of weeks is finally released our amazing work from our developers and our team there, the custom rankings and projections tool loaded with VDP projections that I'm updating every day. Last night, for some reason, I don't know why, it has nothing to do with it, but I took Michael Grove out of my 1,400 plus innings mix, put in Kasparius and did a little more tinkering, but I took Michael Grove out. The next morning, wake up, he's got shoulder injury, surgery. He's out for the year. Obviously had nothing to do with it. Just saying. You got the VDP projections, you got the FTN model projections. You can switch between projection sources and you can customize your league format to anything you need. Holds, we got those saves with holds. That's being added this week. We have every customization that you need, points, formats, whatnot. we got it. So spring 15, 50% off.
Sick. I'll also say this. I don't work for FTN, but I remember, Vlad, last year you had Ohtani as like the, second or third most valuable hitter. And he was just going like back half of the first, and then he had the allegations, and he was going in the second round. And it was just like this tremendous buying opportunity. And if you look at some of the top teams in the NFBC mains, like Clark Olson's team, I believe, and then the next two, I forget his name, who got the second and third, but they all had Ohtani on their team. Right? Jason
Santu, yeah.
Yeah, Jason. So, it not to say that one player makes the projections, but I think you're willing to like make stands on these guys, and ball, and they're really, really solid projections. So I would recommend anybody to take a look at those.
And while I was doing my thing, or while I was talking about it and just getting all fired up, I got auto drafted. So I had the next guy in my queue. I actually wasn't planning to take him because I didn't really need another reliever yet. But yes, that AJ Puck was not intended there.
I was going to ask if you were on AJ Puck over Justin Martinez with that pick.
Oh, big time. I am.
You think Puck gets more saves?
Yeah, I think. I'm the guy that was all in Yuki Matsui last year, right? So I got to wear my L's as well. But it's certain things like manager speak, like when Lavillo speaks about, when they ask him, who you trust most, it's Puck's name's out of his mouth first. The other part of it was that AJ Puck, what was it? Another quote by Lavillo: "He's not afraid to have a lefty closer." I think that if Justin Martinez could stay consistent and not be wild, it would be ideal to just have Justin Martinez pitch the ninth and let Puck do his thing, set up seventh, eighth, multi-inning, roll, whatever. But I think this is more of I don't know if I trust Martinez to not be wild on occasion and then possibly lose the job. So I could be totally wrong. That's just how I feel it.
Yeah. And on the bullpen report, which during the spring training right now, Vlad and I are both kind of managing, we do have Puck listed first on the Diamondbacks. We still list it as a committee, and I would expect it to be kind of a shared position. But right now, the quotes coming from Lavillo and just the spring performance, how well Puck finished the year last year with Arizona after returning to the bullpen, I think we would lean towards him as the 1A and Martinez a 1B.
Well, Puck's also the veteran, right? And those guys usually get some deference when it comes to like closing gigs. And like, let's not forget, like Puck is not like, he was a top prospect coming up, right? Who just couldn't like stay healthy and hack as a starter, but didn't have the repertoire. But man, he's just one of those guys. And when you look at like elite closers, so many of them start off as failed starters. And so I see a lot of that in AJ Puck. So I tend to like him better than Martinez too.
Well, this is going pretty bad for me. I had my eyes on Jung, and then I had my eye on Eovaldi. My CI keeps getting snatched from me.
What about Clay Holmes? I'm surprised he didn't go 20 picks higher after his outing today.
Yeah, he's going to be moving up a ton.
Yeah, 8 strikeouts.
Who's that?
Clay Holmes.
Strikeouts, kick change. God.
8 strikeouts in 3 2/3. He did walk 3. But he only gave up 1 hit, so the whip was okay.
So I hate to say it, in that Puck pick, and though I don't have Clay Holmes that high up in this OC, I was ready to take him. So like if I hadn't lost track of what I was doing and I kind of needed a starter there, that's who I was taking because go for another home run. So oh well. All right, yeah, it looks like we're gonna take us around the bend. Unless you guys are opposed, just through this next turn here, the end of the round 19, we'll kind of wrap things up. Any final thoughts? Let's see. You already passed up, Brandon. Let's wait for you to make your pick and then give your thoughts. But I want to ask Sammy or Dan to start. Teams looking at roster construction here. Besides the teams that me and Brandon at 3 and 11. Anything else stand out to you as far as set of players you like, builds you like, and we can try to see if we get the whole board.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you scroll to the top?
Yeah. Is that too small? Does it look okay?
It's good for me.
Okay. Yeah, Sammy, this is probably your first chance seeing the upper part of the draft here.
Yeah. I caught a quick glimpse at the beginning. I can't say anything nice about your guys' team. So what do I like? Who do I go with? This is the thing about a 12. You're used to 15s, and you're like, "Wow, everyone's pretty good. Like everyone's got really good players."
The team 9, like the mix of starting pitchers, I think is really nice. Skeen, Sale, Aaron Nola, Alcantara is your 4, and then Walker Buehler. He's probably going to grab some more starters soon, but I think that's a pretty solid mix. We've been seeing Gavin Williams kind of going a little higher in drafts lately. Jackson Jobe has been popping up as well. So yeah, some interesting plays here. Dan, you got any favorites?
Well, this is actually the first time I'm kind of taking in the whole board as well. Since we started scrolling down a bit to fit everything. But at team 10, Randy Leeson, he is a subscriber. He said that we could be critical or evaluate his team. I really like the start, with Tucker and Chorio. I've been a big fan of Jackson Chorio. I know in my stolen bases article, hitters to target, I pegged him as a potential 30-plus steal guy, and I would have put him at 40-plus if I'd been a little more bold. But I said in the article, you can see already, if you look, he might be on that Ronald Acuna Jr. type of career path. And I don't think that's hyperbole. He is a tremendously talented hitter, and he definitely is one that could make the leap. So I personally do put him ahead of Julio Rodriguez. Nothing wrong with Julio, where you took him, Vlad. But I really love Chorio, and I'm trying to find reasons to kind of pull it in a little bit, not get too enthusiastic. But I think that's a great start with Tucker and Chorio. And then Reagans has been a guy I've taken a lot as well. Getting Diaz to anchor the closer position, going right back with Schwellenbach. I thought it was a great start for Randy at 10.
So I got a pick coming up here, or like 2 picks. I still don't have a third baseman. Not worrying about a second catcher, and I'm probably going to grab a pitcher here. The pitchers have been going hot and heavy. There are this is kind of a pocket of pitching where, I don't know, guys like Lodolo, Darvish, I'm not touching Grayson, I don't think. And then the rest of the guys, I feel like the next pocket I can go for later. So I might be able to skip a pitcher here. But looking at third base, it's a little early here as well. I do have a couple of guys I'm interested in. Typically do not target Marlins, but Connor Norby does stand out to me. Probably the right move is to just grab, actually, let me wait for Randy to make his pick. Let me just take it back a step here. Okay. There's some third baseman I like, and he took him.
Oh, got you.
Randy.
Got you. Is how assured is Shaw's kind of spot right now, do you guys think?
I think he's the starter.
Put up some really nice minor league numbers.
Is he going to Tokyo for sure?
I don't know if they'll feel that he has enough reps in the spring to take him to Tokyo. They might keep him behind, give him additional at bats. But I think domestically, he'll be there for the opener, and he will be their third baseman.
Yeah, really nice speed out of third base from that. I'll say Team 10 is your guys' boy Randy. Is that right?
Yep.
So he's done some things that I don't necessarily love to do when you get like Xavier Edwards and Jung-Hoo Lee. Like he's got multiple guys who are like very high average, but Edwards is going to hit like 3 home runs. If Jung-Ho hits double digits, be pleasantly surprised. But I really like how he came back and got Isaac Paredes with that build.
And I needed a third baseman, so he snagged me there. That was a good pick.
Yeah, I think that's just so solid. I like Paredes a lot. Obviously, I'm not the only one going to that ballpark that really just seems to fit him like a glove. But if you're going to take some of those high average guys that don't have a lot of power, man, and you're looking for a lower average dude who can pop like 30 plus, maybe 40 in his best year, that's a pretty solid pick that he made.
He's got a few too many third basemen, though. I don't know quite how he's going to make that work. He's got 4.
No trade league, by the way. This is a no trade league.
I mean, maybe he hopes Paredes gets second, but then he's got McLean, Edwards, and Dansby too. I think he's missing a roster spot.
Yeah, it looks like Bregman's probably not going to get 2B eligibility like some foresaw earlier on.
Dan,
So,
do we have
we'll see
round 20 on that board?
Let me move it down.
Right. Yeah,
he just did it for the snipe equity on Vlad, and frankly,
for sure.
That's awesome, Randy. Like, hats off to you.
By the way, do as we recommend, and the rankings, projections, articles, not necessarily how I do, because we're live streaming here, trying to do my best, but me grabbing a Connor Norby 60 picks ahead of his ADP is not necessarily advisable. Though this is like at 230, and he does have a min of 199, you kind of don't really want to push it there. But I was looking at the rest of those third basemen there, and really, honestly, nobody I feel comfortable starting with, and I don't want to take like a batting average ding with like a Max Muncy. So, listen, I failed at the third baseman, and that's going to be the guy that I'll have to live with for now until Fab. All right. Last word here as we finish up here this round. Let's just take it around the table, starting with you, Dan.
Well, I actually have a draft of my own starting in about 10 minutes here. So I'm going to have to get myself off the stream.
Yep.
But like Vlad said many times throughout the show, I'm part of FTN now. I'll be with you all season running our bullpen report, which will have a weekly article. So I'm still coming up with the format, but I think I'm going to have some recommendations for specs and then just kind of review team by team who's been getting the saves and, any additional notes on if I think the hierarchy has changed or anything of relevance for bullpens. I'm going to be on it all year.
Corkwood, Brandon. Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know. I don't have any content. I'm on Twitter every now and again, posting draft boards and interacting guys during draft season. Had plans to go out to Vegas this year and partake in all the festivities, but had to cancel those about a month ago, unfortunately. So going to push that back another year. I'm just, we're keeping the hits coming with Gleyber Torres getting sniped as my second baseman in my queue. This is really good. I mean, the snipe equity is just really getting to me right now, but I'm just going to bring this whole thing home right now and just lock this guy in as my terrible RP3 just for bid equity and to really finish off the show on a high note. Kyle Finnegan. There we go.
Boom.
The world will fall apart around it, and yet there's Kyle. The whole world's like, it will collapse, and like say the world's ending in 7 years. Kyle Finnegan is still getting like 25 saves with his 4 ERA.
Love that, man. Love that.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, hopefully he doesn't, implode in the first month. He can get me 20 saves before he rocks a 5 ERA and a 1.4 WHIP. But I need saves, and I don't have many, and my closers are terrible, so I got to volume it.
If you see the name Brandon Waddell or Corkwood in your draft, run the other way. Do not draft with this man. No, I'm kidding. You should draft and beat him. Thank you so much, Brandon, for coming on. Dan, you're amazing. Of course. Sammy, final words here, and we'll close things out.
Yes, sir. Just, really excited for draft season. Like, I think I get a later start than most. So just to get in here now, got mains in a couple of weeks, to be able to do this with you guys is awesome. It's good to connect with you guys. And anybody that likes poker out there, I promise. New episodes of Read 'em and Weep coming soon. Check it out.
That'll do it for everybody. For Jason Anthony, Dan Thompson, Brandon Waddell, Sammy Reed, I'm Vlad Sedler. We'll catch you on the next stream. FTN Fantasy. Talk to you later.